Mars?
No.
So he's telling you who your enemies are. Because if you're busy taking care of your children, then you can't go talk to your neighbor about how to take care of your children because you're busy taking how to take care of theirs because you're busy taking care of yours, right? So when you see Moors speaking down against the rise of the Moors organization, what does that tell you? They're exactly who your prophet told you that they are. Your enemies. Right? Because if we collectively have kept women out of jail because of bogus charges, frivolous, moot charges that the Europeans were bringing against them, if we kept her out of jail to raise her two children, how are we doing anything against the prophet? Right? Because the European modus operandi is to keep prison industrial complex going, to get free labor, to keep businesses like Whole Foods going, right? Because that's what they have prisoners doing. So if we're stopping that with law, civics, jurisprudence, enforcing the Constitution and treaty, then how are we doing anything wrong?
Right.
And if we are doing it wrong, why aren't they showing us the correct way to do it? Instead of saying, oh, you're not honoring the prophet, DM me for this private message and I'll show you the way. How come you're not making it public?
Right.
Because if it's about uplifting fallen humanity, that sounds like a non-profit organization to me, which means some information should at least be free.
Right.
But no, they want you to join their private group organization and bow to their fake sultan, their fake prophet, their fake supreme grand chairman, their fake everything because they're liars.
And have their own place constitution in the organization too as well.
Yeah. Prophet warns all Muslims to beware in every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We're for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans that causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We're for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any questions on that last sentence? No questions?
The flashing cards, like, there's different definitions because it comes from a philosophy standpoint, and I would like you to be able to recite when it says do not flash your cards. Or
Okay, so it says, stop flashing your cards at Europeans, it causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. So, again, in the Quran it says the sin lies within the intent, not the act itself. Because when we go to federal court, we have to show them our ID, right? The intent is to get in the building. But some Moors are saying, oh, look at my nationality card. Look at my that's a different intent.
Correct.
So if it's for your salvation, don't just walk around with it like, yeah, this makes me a Moor, because it doesn't. That's what he's referring to. And then failure to obey that would mean you don't understand what it's for. So when Europeans say that's not real, you just give up. And that's the consequence that you have to deal with. Right?
Because if you don't, like they said, that your card is not going to be for your salvation, meaning that a card is not going to help you to be able to distinguish the battle.
Yeah.
So that right there, it could be able to help you to have a knowledge first how to use it,
Yeah.
instead of just using the card for salvation, because that's not going to put you in a place of a salvation.
Yeah.
Like, you need to self-acknowledge and self-study every day.
Yeah, that's why if you read the oral statements, Noble Drew said, your nationality card is going to change in your pocket. Meaning you thought it was the end all be all when it's not. It's your brain, like you said. Right? Great question. Then he continues to say, we're for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any questions on that? Great. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. Now pay attention to this last part. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. Any questions on that?
No question.
We sure?
I could just put a asking instead of questioning. Asking meaning in a perspective of if the prophet does put rules and regulations and statutes, and meaning is for your salvation too as well.
Yeah.
Because he's doing it without malicious way.
Yeah.
And what do you think about that? Like,
Yeah, that's why he's saying it. That's why I'm saying, so it's kind of like this. Again, if this is.
Wouldn't that be
period.
called the supreme law of the land? In
Yeah.
his words, what he's saying? That's the supreme law of the
So,
land.
imagine we're in a village, right? And we're all drinking from that water. And the prophet says, no peeing in that.
Correct. It's for a
The
reason.
law was for the benefit of everyone.
Correct.
So you might want to abide by it. That's why he said you will and must. You will meaning it's a choice, and must meaning you don't have a choice. Meaning there's nothing else that's going to stop people from peeing in that water by saying no peeing in that water. There's no other alternative. What else can you say,
Nothing else.
right? So when he says enforce that constitution,
Yeah.
there's no need to interpret anything.
How to be able to go around it? Because a lot
Yeah.
of people. That's what I was asking, because it was not a questioning of confusion. It was more of an asking to be able to come
Explain it.
to explain it more into details. Because when you exercise and you start, reading what prophet put in place, it was for us to analyze it, not just to go over. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Or Moreno. Oh,
No,
I
no,
thought
you good, you
had a
good.
Question. Not to just go over and just not even think about it. Put a stop to it,
Yeah.
and just come into a sense
To
of
know why it was established.
Correct.
Just like when the Supreme Grand Council voted in that every temple is gonna have per capita tax, it's so that there was enough finance going into the movement to keep it running. That's why he did that. So if failure to do so would mean or result in the slowing down of the movement by the people that the movement is supposed to benefit.
Correct.
So that was a great question. So again, all true Moors will and must obey the laws as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their carding button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where the prophet found you. Subsequently applies to the Rise of the Moors organization. It is a private, non-profit, civic organization. You do not need to be here to be a Moor whatsoever. You don't even need to come here for the information. The information is already out there. But if you want to go where I'm taking this movement, then there's certain laws that you have to abide by. And you don't have to abide by those laws, which means you can get the hell out of here. It's that simple. So I don't hold your birthright. No individual holds your birthright. But you get to choose which Moors you want to associate with and which Moors you don't want to associate with. So if you have any problems here, you don't have to be here. Remember that. Get it? You're not forced to come here. I'm not forcing any of you to come here. You understand what I'm saying? We sure? I'm not saying I don't want you here.
Islam.
I'm
saying
in.
the reason why I established certain laws is for a reason. So if you don't want to abide by them, then don't argue against them with me. Just leave.
Islam.
Gotcha.
And I don't know how to sugarcoat it. That's just how it is. Because if I'm showing Moors that what I'm saying is working, and you don't want to listen to what I'm saying, well then there's nothing else to talk about. Right?
Clear.
This is a holy and divine movement followed by the prophet Noble Drew Ali, and if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet therefore is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple.
It's the legal
This is
service.
an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of
For
Allah.
whoever
and
asks
the
for legal
excuses in
service,
simple ways, peace.
There you
The
go.
divine prophet Noble Drew Ali.
4
Now
on
we now
1.
read the questions. The Rise of the Moors questionary. Number 1. Which you don't have to answer, but if you know the answers, just spew them out. But I'm just going to read the question and the answers. Number 1, what is your nationality? The answer is Moorish American. Number 2, who is your prophet?
Noble
The
Drew
answer is
Ali.
Noble Drew Ali. Number 3, what is the name of your country? The answer is Morocco.
Morocco.
Number 4, where is Morocco? The answer is North America.
America.
Number 5, are you a citizen of the United States?
No.
The answer is no. The United States is a European corporation. See Title 18 of the United States Code, subsection 3002, number 15A. Number 6, are you a citizen? The answer is yes. I'm a citizen of Morocco. Any questions on that?
Citizen of the U.S.
Get out. So I'll ask again. Number 6, are you a citizen? The answer is yes.
Yes.
I'm a citizen of Morocco. Any questions? Great. So if you say, is there a difference in saying I'm a citizen of Morocco and saying I'm an American citizen? No, there isn't. Why? Because Morocco is
It's
in North America.
Almarat.
Number 7, why are you not a citizen of the United States? The answer is because the political body known as the United States is a federal compact of European colonies, and I am Aboriginal and indigenous to America. My people were here prior to European colonization. Any questions on that? Number 8, is the 14th Amendment constitutional? The answer is no. The 14th Amendment was never ratified. See the proceedings and debates of the 90th Congress, First Session, Volume 113, Part 12, June 12, 1967, Congressional Records, page 15641, and others. Number 9, what territory are you in right now? This territory is Narragansett, but the Europeans call it Rhode Island, which it is not. Rhode Island is the name of their colonial corporation. Number 10, what is a corporation? A corporation is a body in action. So the Europeans are called Rhode Islanders. And since you're not European, you're not a Rhode Islander. Hence, diversity of citizenship. Hence, you're not a citizen of Rhode Island. Hence, you're not a U.S. citizen.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Where did you get that information?
I got this from the Secretary of State's website, sos.ri.gov. I also went to the State House, read their books on Rhode Island history. Also went to William Hall Library, cross-referenced several books on Rhode Island history, and all of them say Narragansett. Also, I have maps here. I'm not sure what my original map is, but I had a map where it's spelled Narragansett with the H, and it's properly spelled Connecticut. But if you just simply Google, if you just search Rhode Island history on their website, literally their governmental website, they'll say Aquidneck, which was this island right here, which is called Newport today. They changed the name of Aquidneck to Rhode Island, and this is the original Rhode Island, this island right here. They call it Isle of Rhodes, which is over in Europe, so they took European names and brought it with them. Which means this is not Rhode Island.
There was a corporation that was established in this
Europeans, yeah.
Yeah.
So historically, all of this is not Rhode Island. Since they colonized all of it, they got the Moors to think that they're Indian and black and call it Rhode Island. Now they have just this jurisdiction. Get it? So yeah, just read books in the library. So no questions on the 14th Amendment, right? Congressional record. I agree. What territory you're in? Blah 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 blah. What is a corporation? I already went over that.
Can I?
What? Yeah.
I'm sorry about the 14th Amendment. Can I be able to put June 13, 15, 642 in there?
What is that?
That's pretty much the evidence that there was unconstitutional until the 14th Amendment.
Oh yeah, it's
That's
June
beside
12,
it.
1967.
Yeah, so I was just trying to recite it there for people to look at it.
Yeah, so to research why you're not a 14th Amendment citizen and why the 14th Amendment is not constitutional, why the United States cannot naturalize people, is because the 14th Amendment was never ratified. See the proceedings and debates of the 90th Congress, First Session, Volume 113, Part 12, June 12, 1967, of the Congressional Records on page 15641. So if you type all of that in, it'll pop up. And you can get that certified from the Library of Congress. So if anyone wants to do any research or add that into their affidavits for a court or whatever, it's right there. So, you know, because the accuser bears the burden of proof, I made the accusation that the 14th Amendment is not constitutional, and they gave you proof as to where to find it. Because in the Divine Warning by the Prophet for the Nations, Noble Drew Ali said the 14th and 15th Amendment is not necessary for the salvation of my people and citizens. So you have to know why it's not necessary for the salvation of his people and citizens, which also relates to naturalization and the deportation and the whole ICE argument with all that BS. Which would also bring up the fact that Moors are saying we are U.S. citizens. Well, how? What law made us U.S. citizens? Because in order to be a U.S. citizen, you have to relinquish all claim and allegiance to any foreign state, prince, sovereign alliance whatsoever.
Not even that.
And when did you do that?
In 1940, the prophet.
Not only
In
Wrote
that,
out the card.
not only
Well,
that,
in 1940, the prophet was already
Yeah,
dead.
exactly.
So, then when you read nationality, it determines who you have allegiance to. So if you claim your nationality, that means you have allegiance to Morocco, your Moorish bloodline. So now you're claiming dual citizenship.
you can't be a citizen because Title 28 states it's a federal.
It's a corporation.
Not even that. Case law, Drescar versus Stanford.
Yeah, but that's why I bring up the 14th Amendment.
Yeah.
Because they say the 14th Amendment reversed the Dred Scott case.
Never did.
It never did because it was never ratified.
That's why they established second class citizenship.
Yeah.
And it was incorporated.
So, what is the Bill of Rights? The Bill of Rights is part of the Constitution for the United States, lowercase u, and protects the rights of all nationals, including Moorish Americans. So if you read the Chinese Constitution, it's for the Chinese people. It's but it also protects nationals on their land, right? So the United States Constitution is for the Europeans doing business here, but since they're on someone else's land, they also have to have laws that they have to honor, which protect other nationals, which is how our relationship is built with the United States, including the treaty. Right, so that establishes the status or relationship between the Moors and the United States. The treaty does that. And then the Constitution, Article 6, makes our treaty part of the supreme law of the land for the United States. Get it? So it's a separate judicial entity or drill society on our land. And we are separate from them. Which, since we're separate, that brings up the diversity, because it's diverse. They're different. Right? The root word of diverse, diversity, is di, which means to separate.
It's like, I asked Grand Street, let me stay on 10 acres of your 40 acres of land. And on those 10 acres, I'm gonna put a no trespassing sign. He crosses it. How could I tell him, you're on my property?
Can't.
Think about it. How could I tell him you're trespassing on my property? So now I'm gonna take you.
He said if he gets,
So let's say I ask him, he has 40 acres. I say, let me use 10 acres. And I need the 10 acres so that I can conduct commerce. Right? I put a no trespassing sign on the 10 acres. He crosses the 10 acres that I'm on. Now, I can't tell him, you're trespassing, arrest you, or the whole, I can't do that.
unless he has a superior amount of people
Yes.
protecting that 10 acres on my land, and then he forces that on me.
Mhm.
That's a completely different situation,
And then at that point, I'm gonna take the whole third.
which is what they did.
Exactly.
Get it? What United States Code states that all debts of the Federal Reserve note belongs to the United States? The answer is Title 12, subsection 411. Number 13, is a mortgage ownership of property? The answer is no, it is not. The only way to own property is to have the allodial title. Number 14, where is the allodial title derived from? The answer is the nationals of the land. Number 15, is the IRS part of the United States government? No, it is not. C, Diversified Metal Products Incorporated, versus Tebow Trust Company, the Internal Revenue Service, and Steve Morgan in the United States District Court for the District of Ohio, civil number 93-405-E as in Echo, -E as in Echo, J as in Juliet, L as in Lima. United States answering claim submitted November 18th, 1993 by the United States Attorney Betty R. Ward and House Resolution 25 of the 116th Congress, first session of January 3rd, 2019. So I said no and then gave you proof as to why the answer is no. Number 16, is the Rise of the Moors organization part of the Moorish Science Temple of America? Their answer is no. Rise of the Moors is a non-profit civic organization formed under the Moorish Divine and National Movement under the leadership of me. The organization follows the laws as laid down by the Prophet and establishes its own laws in accordance with the national principles as taught by the Prophet, which is why we have those mandatory meetings where we all vote, all of our voices are heard, and we make the decisions. Number 17, is the Moorish Science Temple of America or the Rise of the Moors interested in overthrowing the United States? Their answer is no. Moorish Americans are not interested in overthrowing any political organization or government. It is the interest of all Moors to rightfully establish their own national government in accordance with the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights and the rights of indigenous people. Any questions on any of that? Great. Number 18, are you above the law? No. The answer is no. Moorish Americans are not above nature's law. We are law abiders and live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice with strict adherence to our treaty, to the treaty that we have with the colonial United States and our nation of 1787, as well as the Constitution for the United States of America of 1791. Number 19, which, speaking of the Constitution of 1791, the Moors need to have their own national constitutional convention so that we have our own laws. Which presently, there is no executive branch of the Moorish nation. And if there is, show me. and show me when the election took place, and show me who voted, and show me the Council of Elders, which is the Senate, and the representatives, and show me the Sultan, and show me the Grand Vizier, and show me the Emir. Show me all these people, since they exist. Okay.
And the Grand General to our army.
Yeah, that's the Emir.
Yeah.
Number 19. What is the reason for these questions? The answer. So we are clear on which rights apply to us, and so there's no confusion as to what we stand for and what our intentions are. Number 20. What are our intentions? The answer. To live freely, exercise our rights to the pursuit of happiness, and free our people from mental slavery by honoring Act 6 of the Divine Constitution and bylaws. Teach our people about their nationality and divine creed with the aim of establishing a functioning, free, Moorish national government, like the Prophet said, a free national government, not a republic, federal, whatever BS that Moors are saying, with a flourishing economy. Now, the reason why I say what I just said is because in the Divine Warning by the Prophet of the Nation, Noble Drew Ali talked about all those who are interested in, I'll just read it. I'm going to reference my third book, this one, if you have it. If you don't, can't follow along. Towards the back, the Divine Warning by the Prophet for the Nations. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's number 10. It's not, the pages aren't enumerated.
That's what I was looking
The
at.
book printed like that, I don't know why.
That was a.
But the Divine Warning by the Prophet for the Nations, the first 7 words that he says, the citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Now, part of our national constitution is the divine constitution and bylaws. Right? Now, notice he said free national government, right? Right? What type of government is the United States?
Democracy.
A federal government.
Oh yeah.
So if the Prophet said free national, can you be a citizen of a federal government?
No.
And if he said all one family bearing one free national name, that means who's the only people running that government? Moors. And
I was talking about the U.S. Yeah, I
in
was
the
answering
U.S.
that
Well, in
question.
the U.S. it could be anybody.
Mm-hmm.
It don't gotta be just Europeans. That's why it's federal, because they're not claiming a nationality. They're claiming a political organization called the United States, which means anyone can be their president except for a black man, because black people have no status. That's why when Obama became president, he said, I'm the first Kenyan American. He didn't say black American. He went to Kenya and said, I'm the first Kenyan American. Get it? So in the Moorish government, only Moors can be officials. That's why I say free national government, not a federal one. So again, all these Moors claiming there's a certain body of Moors claiming a national republic federal government. How does that make sense? How you national and federal at the same time? because that means other nationals can be part of your government, which means you're not a national government.
Oh, like a democratic republic?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It's an oxymoron.
Or sovereign citizen, it doesn't make sense.
Because all states have
That's like
sovereignty.
That's like saying I'm a Republican and a Democrat.
Or I'm a free slave.
Right? Because the word federal means contract, which means anyone can agree, which is why in the United States anyone can be in Congress. With a free national government, which is what the Prophet talked about, only Moors can be part of that, as it relates to administration of government. To establish naturalization laws and accept people as citizens, but they don't get to make the big boy and big girl decisions. Because it is a free national government. Now, when the Prophet said that, I put in an annotation so people can study, right? And this is from Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, page 1176, national government. The
I
government
definitely
of
heard
a whole
somebody
nation, as distinguished from that of a local or territorial division of the nation, and also as distinguished from that of a league or confederation. A national government is a government of the people of a single state or nation, united as a community by what is termed social compact. Now, what's our social compact? Our bloodlines. and possessing complete and perfect supremacy over persons and things, as far as they can be made the lawful objects of civil government. A federal government is distinguished, which means what?
Different.
Separate, spell distinguished. I'll spell it. D-I, I don't gotta spell the rest. The root word means to separate, which means it's separate. So there is no free national republic federal government of the Moors. It doesn't exist. It can't exist. Any questions? Are we sure? Are we 1,000% positive? All right, so let me give the reference again. Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, page 1176. Where was I?
Sorry.
A function-free national government with a flourishing economy by establishing Moorish-owned businesses in Lodium, establishing Moorish universities, Moorish grocery stores, restaurants, childcare facilities, farms, factories, and import and export companies owned outright by Moors and the like. Number 20, do we hate Europeans? The answer is no, we do not. We love everyone, but we will not allow our rights to be molested or violated by any nation or quasi-nation of people, to include dirty Moors. Which, the reason why no one respects the law, the Moors, is because the Moors are lawless. What laws do we have dealing with treason? None.
What are we doing to the treason?
What are we doing with all these Moors claiming to be Temple Number 1 and the Sultan and the Supreme Grand Chairman? What are we doing with them? Allowing it. So who's going to respect us? Nobody. Any questions on any of that?
No, sir.
Great. So now, where's Ishmael?
Oh, he just went out real quick.
Oh,
He just
what
stepped
we
out.
gonna do in this case? So the reason why, you've all heard me say, and I'll say it again, the reason why I tell Moors that all cases must be litigated in federal court is because we are not citizens of the United States. Now, Moors have 30 days to send in their notice of removal to the federal courts. Right? And I'm just going to use this real fast, again, the divine warning by the Prophet of the Nations to support why our issues are to be litigated in federal court. Let me just find it real fast. Besides him saying there's no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendment for the salvation of our people,
And if you don't file the removal in 30 days, what can you do instead?
file an original claim. So this is what the prophet said regarding the treaty. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must first claim your national descent name, because they placed their trust upon issues formed by their forefathers. What is the treaty? It's a
Treaty of
trust. Between who?
the Mo-
Moors and the United
States of America.
So which side are you on? Because that's how we place our trust. Because if the Moors have a treaty with the Chinese, we're expecting them to conduct themselves a certain way. That's how we build trust. So if we have a treaty with the United States, we're expecting them to act a certain way, which is what the prophet said, right? He said they placed their trust upon issues formed by their forefathers. Didn't our forefathers enter into the treaty? Wasn't that an agreement? Isn't it a trust and agreement? So if I say watch my water and you say yes, I agree, that's an agreement. So if the treaty says, I'll just read the treaty, which I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. Let me just do this. I'm getting ahead of myself. I apologize.
It's the Barbary Wars, is how they came about with the
So,
treaty. There was the Barbary Wars,
Well-
what's going on.
Well, there's several Barbary Wars, but
Because,
because there's a time period called the Barbary Wars,
okay,
but that's 1800s to the 1850s. So before that,
yeah,
it
before
was
that.
Moors taking European
Ships.
ships,
Yeah,
and since the United States separated from
Yeah.
the different monarchs of Europe, their ships were also being taken, which is why they had to fly the Star Spangled Banner to distinguish them from other Europeans.
which is why, the only reason I stated that is because it would say pirates.
for
These
Willie,
ships, they weren't- they were
commenting about the
actually
30
Moors
days,
taking these ships.
if
Moors
you
was-
don't
and they were
a
taking these ships. They
removal
had,
in 30 days,
for the water
or if it's
in
been
place
longer
for
than 30 days,
But now you're talking
you
about
would then
ad-
file a
Yeah.
writ of prohibitio, aka, also known as
The treaty
an
covered
estoppel.
that, yeah.
You send the writ of prohibitio
and sea.
/ estoppel, it's the same thing,
Which is
to the state or county court to get them to stop, and you file a new federal case either way.
They supposed to have constitution.
But the removal, you only have 30 days to do that.
And not
So-
only that, more also means like land.
Yeah, tanker ship, all that good stuff. Alright, so,
3 primary issues at law.
yeah.
Jurisdiction.
Good lord. Doing good, you're doing great. Just trying to figure out where to start. That's a good place to start.
Yeah.
There are 3 problem issues at law. The first one is status. Status is dealing with your mental competence and who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Status is the relationship of you and someone else, right? Get that? Your status is also your allegiance, who you claim allegiance to, right? Now imagine we are a military and we're at war with another nation. And we see one
I
of
have
those
to get
people
back
from
to you.
said nation, and we say, well, who are you? And they say, well, I'm so-and-so part of this nation, but I don't have allegiance to them. Then we say, all right, fighting our war. See how that works? But if they come to us in that other nation's uniform, then we already know what the situation is. Get it? It's simple, it's not complex whatsoever. And again, in order to get you U.S. citizenship, you have to renounce all allegiance to any other country. So you can't be a more anti-U.S. citizen at the same time unless you're confused or Asian. Any questions on that?
So basically, when you was in the straw name, you see you was they classify you as U.S. citizen. So when you once you declare your nationality as a Moor, then you just renouncing that. Basically,
Yeah.
you don't have to.
Yes and no. Yes, because your nationality determines your allegiance, and no, because you never claimed allegiance to the United States. It was just assumed because you thought you were black,
Mm-hmm.
which you weren't really a citizen, you were a subject,
Yeah.
and you didn't know.
Which is why they ask you on paper, are you a U.S. citizen?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'll ask you in person, are you a U.S. citizen? You know, they want to know if you're pledging your allegiance to the corporation. And if you did, okay, so now I could put you in the branch system.
Yeah.
Negro, black, color, African
Which
American.
now you're dealing with jurisdiction. That's how they get jurisdiction over you. So
They
depending
pretty
on who
much-
you say you are,
They pretty much trick you into that as a kid, though, right?
no.
Like when you stand up and.
No. So when you were taught in school that you were a U.S. citizen, did they put fear into you?
Not at all.
See? So it started when you were young.
Gotcha.
It started even when you were born, because when they put a date, your birth certificate, it turned into a corporation.
But that's just to support what they teach you when you start thinking.
Yeah,
Because that paper means nothing.
the paper
The
doesn't mean
goal is to get you to think you're a U.S. citizen, so you believe in that.
Gotcha.
That's how that works. The paper is secondary. You are primary. Because the universe is mental, yes.
Can I
Same thing
just,
with ID cards.
I just wanted to just reiterate, because somebody was asking me the questions. And just so you all know on here, commenting in the comments, I can't type comments back to you. I can only talk it to you. So I would be interrupting the class. They were asking about the writ of removal. You have 30 days to file a writ of removal for the,
Notice
excuse me,
of removal.
Thank
You're
you.
just putting them on notice.
Right. And if you don't send the notice of removal in 30 days, or if it's been longer than 30 days, then you're going to want to send an estoppel or a writ of prohibicio to the state/county court. And then you're also going to want to open a file a claim in federal court and send them, the removal or the case info. So that's it. Thank you.
Class.
Which, in my case, I filed it right before I had to even go to court. So. the
So when you went to
sooner
court, you were
do
like,
it,
mhm.
the better.
You can even do it that day.
That same day.
Now, why are you removing the case to federal court?
We don't belong.
One, no jurisdiction,
No jurisdiction of what?
because this matters of diversity of nationality matter.
All right, so, but now, all right, so.
And they don't have jurisdiction
So
to
let me
speak
help
on
you
the
along the way.
treaty.
Let me help you along the way.
Yes.
Because you're saying there's a diversity of nationality.
Yeah,
status.
That determines personam jurisdiction, okay, which is dealing with status. Okay. Right? What's the other thing that you said?
they don't have a jurisdiction to hear the treaty.
Why? Answers on the board.
They're not Article 3 court.
Yes, and what else?
You're not a state citizen.
Oh, section 1, Article 1, section 10,
Which states what?
which states,
That no state shall
shall
enter
enter
into any treaty or alliance. So since they
That's
can't enter into any treaty, they have no jurisdiction over the treaty, which means they can't litigate regarding said
and there's
treaty.
only one Supreme Court. So that would be the only court to even
Yes.
hear this treaty.
Or, so this is what the Constitution says. As it relates to jurisdiction, so we're
Working on
established
that.
State courts don't have jurisdiction over the treaty because the Constitution says they can't even enter into a treaty, right? Now you're talking about the federal courts. Article 3, Section 1 says the judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts, the appellate courts and district courts, as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. So district courts do have jurisdiction over federal issues, because the word federal means contract. The Constitution is a contract, and the treaty is a contract, which the Constitution establishes that only Congress can enter into treaties, right? And since they're the only ones who can enter into treaties, only federal courts or the federal government has jurisdiction over said treaties. Simple, right? Not complex whatsoever. Does anyone have any questions so far?
No.
Right? Additionally, right, because they set the status that only the Supreme Court and the courts that Congress established have jurisdiction, right? Now, what is that jurisdiction? Here it is, Section 2. The judicial power, which means the jurisdiction, shall extend to all cases in law and equity. Law and equity means law, jurisprudence. Equity means fairness, right? Arising under the Constitution, meaning regarding the Constitution, anything written in the Constitution about the Constitution, which is called the federal question, right? The laws of the United States Code, and treaties made, so only federal courts can hear treaties, right? Or which shall be made, meaning new treaties, under their authority, to all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, and consuls, C-O-N-S-U-L, which that's what they said, right? Consuls, remember that. To all cases of admiralty, which a treaty is an admiralty document, right? And maritime jurisdiction, which
It's also.
maritime means law of the sea, right? Which the treaty talks about the law of the sea, don't it? Okay. To controversies to which the United States shall be a party, so as an example, Moorish Americans versus the United States, federal court. To controversy between two or more states, so Rhode Island versus Massachusetts.
Can I stop you real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
When Japan got reparations, did they sue the United States?
I'm not sure, I can't answer that, I don't know. They may have. But what's custom is that a nation with a military, they don't necessarily have to sue. That's kind of like courtesy of war. But a nation with no military to enforce their rights, and it's kind of like, we don't have to give them shit. Right?
Language.
Between a state and a citizen of another state, that's diversity, right? Between citizens of different states, that's diversity, right? And between citizens of the same state claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state or citizens thereof and foreign states, citizens or subjects. So since we are foreign to them, the jurisdiction is federal court. Any questions?
No, sir.
To support that, let's read what the treaty says, because that just referenced consuls, right? Okay, so let's see what the treaty says.
Some people might think foreign means across the sea.
No, the word foreign means outside. That literally means outside. So when you're in your house, anything outside is foreign to you. Anything outside your body is foreign to you. That's why your white blood cells will attack anything foreign. You don't think, when you hear that, you don't think overseas, you think outside of your body. Right? Which is where the whole consulate, we don't have consul our own land. Well, you obviously don't know what's going on. You don't know what the word foreign means. That's just, let's be real.
Like
right?
Europeans are foreign to this land?
That was a good one.
I don't know, it's too complicated, I understand. I don't over in there and understand. Too complex.
Stop drinking Diet Woke then.
So this is from the Library of Congress. This is the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between the United States of America and His Imperial Majesty, the Emperor of Morocco, January 1787. A true representation from that work. Sealed by the Library of Congress, by the authority of Congress, the United States at large, public statutes at large of the United States of America, from the organization of the government in 1789, the organization of the government in 1789, the end of the Second Continental Congress, when George Washington became President of the Republic, to March 3rd, 1845, arranged in chronological order, with reference to the matter of each act and to the subsequent acts on the same subject, and copious notes of the decisions of the courts of the United States, construing those acts and upon the subjects of the laws, with an index to the contents of match volume, I'm not sure what that says, and a full general index to the whole work in the concluding volume. What the heck is that here?
These are my notes for you.
Together with the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, and the Constitution of the United States, and also tables in the vast volume. Nah, it's like when it's typed, the G's look like U's.
Oh,
the way
it's
not that
tight.
too small.
It's the old typing.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
typing. In the vast or last volume containing list of the acts relating to the judiciary, impost, and tonnage, the public lands, etc., edited by Richard Peters, Esquire, exempt, consular at law. So that's the reference. This is the treaty. Treaty of Peace and Friendship between the United States of America and His Imperial Majesty the Emperor of Morocco, January 1787. Article
Sorry.
21. If a citizen of the United States shall kill or wound a MOOR, which who are you?
More.
Oh. Or, on the contrary, if a Moor shall kill or wound a citizen of the United States, the law of the country shall take place, and equal justice shall be rendered. The consul, didn't Article 3 mention consuls?
Yep.
Okay. Shall not be answerable for him in any matter whatever. So what subject did that address? Crimes. So in any criminal prosecution, that's consular court, baby. Which 99% of the time when the Europeans are bringing charges against you, what is it?
Criminal.
Criminal. Which, as a Moor, since you claim to be Moor, I'm improper personatus juris, and I'm whatever, and I'm competent, and I'm blah, 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 then you should know you have to file your removal to federal court, shouldn't you?
Correct.
So if you don't, whose fault is that?
Yours.
Which means you waived your what?
Right.
There you go.
Most of these criminal cases don't even have injured parties, too.
There you go.
Which is in the Constitution.
So that's criminal, right? That addresses the subject matter of criminal prosecution, right?
Mhm.
But guess what? They also address civil issues too.
Mhm.
20. If any of the citizens of the United States or any persons under their protection shall have any disputes,
Adverse possession.
jaywalking, parking ticket, your shoes are tied the wrong way, child protective services, mortgage, credit card debt, student loan debt,
Traveling, working.
traveling, driving,
Taxes.
Anything dealing with commerce.
discrimination,
Mhm.
anything, just in case you know you missed it.
Which means everything.
The council shall decide between the parties.
Mhm.
Right? Where was I? Because I keep throwing my hands in the air. And whatever the council shall require any aid or assistance from our government to enforce his decisions, it shall be immediately granted to him. Which means what? These federal courts should be paying me every time I assist them more in court, shouldn't they?
Yep.
Of course.
Which,
Thousands and thousands of
all
dollars.
of you Moors that went to federal court for Leonidas Jabir Bey versus David Allen Pender in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, when I went before Patty B. Saris and I said, I'm a Moorish American national and we have a treaty with the United States, I'm his consul, what did she say? She said, okay, have a seat.
Right.
So, any more saying,
And
well,
for
that
the
treaty
more who
don't
said
apply to
ganja
us,
is legal everywhere, you
What
gotta
did it
read
do
the
to
rights
you?
of
What did it do to
indigenous
your face?
people. The rights of
Lie, right to
indigenous
your
people
face.
gives the indigenous people the right to their medicinal herbs.
Either intentionally or unintentionally, and some might be misinformed.
No, didn't I say they're either incompetent or they're aged? Isn't that what I said? Because how many, you were there, right? You were there, right? I think Spar was there.
Yeah.
You were there, right?
I was there.
You were there.
What were we talking about?
Where?
Anna was there. federal court for Leonidas.
Oh, yeah,
Now,
yeah.
didn't all of you see all of us walk in with our IDs?
Yeah.
Morris IDs? And didn't all of you notice? he
Actually,
didn't show us ID?
half of us didn't give
I
ID.
didn't give mine.
Yeah.
Alright, so
Yeah, they let everybody, they let the rest of the.
for the camera. All the Moors here, how many of you entered into federal court in Boston?
Mm-hmm.
Also, the First Circuit's in there too.
Mm-hmm.
How many of you entered that building without your Morris ID, just got in?
Second time I got in free.
Now, I know he didn't, because I had his ID in my pocket.
Yeah.
Some of these people weren't there, so.
But when I went in, I had to show my ID, so I showed my Morris ID.
Mm-hmm.
For the,
Show mine.
Mm-hmm.
now, if you don't believe us, ask the courts to see their camera. And if you also don't believe us, look up the United Javert Bay versus David Allen Pender and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and you see which name is on that docket.
Give you one better. If you don't believe us, show them to the next court.
Even Leonidas, it was his case. He didn't have to show ID because he was in the docket.
Yeah,
So
so the docket. It's
yeah.
the video, we're right there.
I'm a bae.
So, can Moore say that the Morris ID don't work?
Nope.
Can any agency on this land say that's not a real ID?
No.
Why? Because the federal courts allowed us to walk into their building with our Moorish ID, which means what? That federal recognition.
Including the federal court here in Rhode Island, because we've been going in and out of there for the last 3 weeks. Prophet didn't teach that?
Yeah, probably didn't teach that. He didn't teach you to use your Moorish ID to get into places.
And guess what? If it's not working for you, it's because we're under colonial occupation and we're not enforcing our rights and they're not used to seeing it. So the more we show it, the more we fight about it.
The more we enforce it.
Right.
Did the prophet tell you to enforce it?
What do I know?
Anyway.
Which, if they do not,
No, yeah, that's the title.
if they do not accept your ID,
Title 18.
that's
Yeah, Title
another
18
lawsuit, federal
USC
question you can get
1048.
because Title 18.
Boom.
So they're gonna be getting
You wanna show
themselves
them
into more trouble.
But hold on. That's only if the Moors are competent, and like I've been telling the consulate to do months ago, to file tort claims in federal court.
Yep.
Because all we have to do is have a few competent cases.
Tort Team
on
Tuesday.
the record, and now we have res judicata for all Moors. But what the norm is Moors walking in, don't know what the swell they're doing, putting a bunch of garbage on the record. So now the Europeans can use that against us. Because a bunch of idiots went to court and didn't know nothing about nothing.
Caught wind of this real quick last week.
All you gotta do is go to caselaw.finelaw.com, type up the word Moorish American, you'll see a bunch of idiots were in there and didn't know nothing about Jack.
And then made everybody else look
now
bad.
It makes us all look stupid
Yeah.
and incompetent.
Yep, and big dollars.
So the reason why I'm saying Moors, if you know what you're doing, because all these Moors claim they got the remedy, right? They all know they're all the holy moly macaroni, they're woke and they're the supreme grand, I'm the supreme grand chief, and I'm the sultan, and I'm the president of the whatever republic. So if you got all this information, and our people need all this help, how come we not in federal court? Every other country suing the United States, why not you? Since you know all this stuff.
Put it like this. The same judge I got in federal court, she heard a court for Asians suing Harvard. Because they can't get into
Because
Harvard.
it's diversity.
Do you see our people suing Harvard because we can't get in?
No.
No, we just accept our nigger bullshit.
Yep.
Go to a historically black college and university called Morehouse, and they get black information. So now, back to court. Any questions?
Not yet.
Are we sure? Any questions? I'm serious, because I don't know how to make this any simpler than this. So if you ask me questions, I'll be able to give you a direct answer pertaining to your question.
So someone might say,
Not yet.
all right, they have subject matter jurisdiction.
Who?
Who's going to court? I'm
Well,
putting
you
a
said
question.
they.
I'm putting a question.
For
No, but
the
who's they?
Who's
Because
they?
status is the first thing. Who?
Oh, okay. So these state courts have subject matter
Okay.
jurisdiction.
So we're saying the United States courts, the
No.
state courts.
The state court.
The United States state courts.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, because we are also a state.
yeah.
He's talking about Rhode Island
I
State
know,
Court,
but
Massachusetts.
I'm
He
saying,
clarifying. Yeah.
We are a state.
Yeah.
So if we have a state court, yes, we have jurisdiction.
So we go into their court.
A colonial state
colonial
court.
state court.
There you go. Yep.
Okay, they have subject matter jurisdiction.
Okay.
Now, and I'm only asking this question for the other people.
Yeah.
For jurisdiction.
Ask it.
I don't want other people to
Abuse it? It don't.
No. They're gonna get discouraged when he says, "Oh yeah, but you have a driver's license, or you know your car was registered." You know, they might feel like, "Oh man, they
So
do
now
still
there's-
have jurisdiction."
So now there's multiple things you can argue.
Yes.
One, I'm not gonna reference the case law because I don't feel like finding it. But
Oh, yeah,
there's
sorry.
case law that states, if your vehicle, car, motor vehicle, carrier, it don't matter what you call it, if that is not used for commercial activity, then guess what it's not subject to? Commercial
Licensing.
regulation. So boom, you're addressing subject matter right there. Then you can say, well, I may have a driver's license, but that don't make me a U.S. citizen. I'm still a Moor. Remove it to federal court. Any questions?
Which is, so my question was leading up to, it has to not only be subject matter,
It has to be personam jurisdiction,
They have to have
subject matter
all three.
jurisdiction, and territorial jurisdiction.
Yes, they have to have all three.
They have to.
They have to.
It has to be on the record.
On the record.
Meaning the judge can't just say, well, I have jurisdiction. That only flies with Moors who don't know.
Right.
Because we can just argue territorial jurisdiction left and right. This ain't Rhode Island, so what are you talking about?
Or like what happened to me, I asked him for delegation of authority.
Yes.
Now, I'm gonna ask y'all,
KWT.
do y'all know what proof of delegation of authority
All
will be
Moors.
shown to prove that he's an Article 3 judge? Does anyone know?
I'm sorry, what was the question? I wasn't paying
Okay,
attention.
so when you ask a so-called judge for delegation of authority,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm only asking because in my experience, he brought me something fake. You know, contrary.
They always do.
Now, do we know as Moors what delegation of authority consists of? Who does it come from? Where is it derived?
From Congress, man.
They need it.
No,
Certified GA 15. What is it? Certified GA 15.
Let me clarify.
From
Judges get appointed by the president and approved by the Senate. Once they do that, they take an oath, that oath is approved.
But that's for federal court.
Yeah.
That's
It works the same with state court.
no, state is from the governor though.
Yeah, it's the same.
The executive
Because
branch.
the
It's
governor,
the hierarchy is the
The
same.
governor appoints it, Senate approves it.
Yeah.
It's the same
It's the
thing.
executive branch, and it's supposed to come from
But that's
legislative.
we
Yeah.
talking about status. We talking about jurisdiction with a delegation of authority order.
Which is jurisdiction.
But you declaring status too as well.
Yeah, that's also their
Because
status, yeah.
delegation of authority order could be able to mean other things too as well.
Yeah.
Delegation of authority order could be able to be a build of sequency of pretty much it's a depth of a knowledge of something, of it. So pretty much like they had to have a conclusion pieces that you did committed a crime. You know what I'm saying?
Right now, we're talking about.
No, I'm saying,
The status of a judge.
the judge, that's the same way. I'm talking about the different point of views of delegation of authority order. He's talking about declaring the status of the judge and the
So-
jurisdiction from judges
So
or
you're talking about the difference,
administrators.
you're talking about the difference between a magistrate and a judge.
yes.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So, and I only ask that because now, delegation authority order, it's not only given to judges. You also have to know that, see, people argue taxes too. You read the Constitution, delegation authority order, does the IRS have it?
no, it's a discovery, right?
Private
They have
corporate.
to have discovery.
This is why,
They cannot jump
When you-
all the way to
when
jurisdiction.
you argue in jurisdiction, you have to know all these things. You can't just challenge jurisdiction, you don't have personal jurisdiction, I'm a Moor.
You're
that's-
flashing your cards.
Yeah, that's what it is. Flash my car. You have to hit them in an angle where they can't
It's
breathe.
undeniable,
They
yeah.
can't breathe.
Which, if you do not have full disclosure, they're violating your right to due process, Fourth and Fifth Amendment, which is also a violation of the Federal Rule of Civil Procedure, Rule number 26, dealing with discovery.
And they will try and lie. They will try and trip you up. This Moore the other day was in court, and the judge asked him for a certain piece of paper that he filed, and the judge and the court claimed that they never received it. And he pulled out his certified mail copy and was like, "Well, the postmaster don't lie." So
And the whole court stopped.
yeah.
The judge was like,
He was like, I already sent that. And he was like, I sent it to you. I sent it to you.
So,
I think he sent one of the guards to the back to even check.
yeah.
So she was like, "I don't have it," and then he sent her back to file.
And then he was like, don't worry, I got a copy here for you and the receipt that I actually sent it to you and signed copy that they got it.
It always is something that I very appreciate for all the knowledge and for the grant sheet, and I take in all the information and I put it onto my own perspective, because that is a tool of living, because now they were trying to trip on my rights and due process of law when it came down for me to submit papers, because their allegation was that I had somebody represented in the case, which I never had in the contract with. So we were arguing with the jurisdiction of the advocate of the court
as well, we were talking about the motions, but I don't call motions, but I call petitions, because this is a petition and a writ that I'm sending. Then I have, you know what I'm saying, no status, they didn't declare the status, they didn't declare jurisdiction, they wanna go all the way to adjudication. So, in that base of matter, I gave a writ of discovery for 21 days for them to give me for delegation of authority order. Never was provided, and the writ of discovery came with status, the eto office from whoever touched that case, because that goes under the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, the right to privacy. I would like to be able to see who touched the case on the matter, because I'm the administrator beneficiary secretary for all caps name. So on top of that, I submitted the paperwork inside. I already got the back and return receipt. I got all the documents. On the bottom of the documents, I put all my tracking numbers, because that gives me the ability for them to hold them accountable. So they didn't want to put that dismiss, because I put this paperwork. It was quorum nobis, is pretty much as an error into the judgment in default. The lack of prosecution, lack of dismiss, with prejudice, and I put that in there, and then they know they have to be able to go obey by. So when I started telling them that they had to honor my paperwork, is nowhere to be found. They didn't submit it. The DA didn't clear that she had it. They was trying to trip on a violation of due process. So that's why I had my older copy to us, well, with the tracking evidence, saying that they wanted to claim that they signed for it and they got it. So they were trying to what they were trying to do? What do you think they were trying to do?
They were trying to act like they didn't get it, so that your proof, because your argument was you didn't have discovery.
Never.
So they were trying to make it seem like you never filed that and put the court on notice, so they can proceed anyway, as if you waived your right to discovery. So you brought up the fact that you had a certified mail to prove that you did. They signed for it and they still didn't address it, which is also proof that they're violating your right to due process, which is why you told them you're going to sue them in federal court, which they all got scared, but they laughed to hide their fear.
Hide their fear.
So this is why you got to know psychology when it comes to more.
Yes, psychology and linguistics.
So, can someone fix the phone? Or someone hold it?
But it was very interesting when you see the fraud that is happening into this court, because honestly, at this point, like nobody's going to get justice into this American jurisdiction courts. We have to bring it to federal court for them to obey by the Constitution, because they're not really we don't hold them accountable. And a lot of Moors out there, like you said, they're agents. That means that they know what to do, but they use it to empower themselves. And there's another Moors out there, they claimed it to be Moors to flash their cars, but the incompetency of them not to get things done accordingly and grammatically evidence of how nature's supposed to be, because we're gonna hold them accountable the same way as handcuffs. It's a process we put them through.
Yeah.
Now it's just step by step. We playing chess, no checkers.
Yeah.
You know, but I'll hold on to that more.
Long.
Do you have the paperwork you need for federal court?
Yeah, I have the paperwork.
So the rest of the class is going to be that. So we're going to have to get the camera because we're dealing with his case.
All right, yeah. I'm actually going to tell him a few things over in the other room anyway.
Do you have any questions?
Oh, yeah, any questions in the chat? This is your chance, please. Let's see. A lot of statements. Comments in the chat.
So I would like to ask a question generally for the public. Once you put your status on the record, you challenge or ask for jurisdiction to be proven, or you prove jurisdiction.
Because if we're plaintiffs in federal court, we have to prove jurisdiction.
Let's say we dismiss, right? We're gonna put our status. We're gonna challenge the jurisdiction to disprove. They don't prove the jurisdiction. Are they supposed to adjudicate and dismiss the case? In theory.
So if you
sometimes they
dismiss the
don't wanna take
case,
the
you dismiss it for lack of jurisdiction, it's not
I had that
adjudicated.
problem, yeah.
You don't have jurisdiction, so you can't even
Get the
adjudicate,
paperwork
so you have no
for-
choice but to
about
dismiss.
Okay,
Well,
so
because
solving
that-
it
Before they put it on
instead.
the record.
You have to dismiss with prejudice.
So I
Okay.
keep checking.
Because you know how they say dismiss
finally-
without prejudice?
Without
Yeah, that's what
Now
I
you have
said,
to
wait.
dismiss
When
with
When I
prejudice.
said wait, I was like, it's wait.
Because prejudice means to prejudge. So it's already determined that state courts don't have jurisdiction over diversity in the federal question, so it's with prejudice. So they can't get to
They
adjudication,
can't get to adjudication, they just have to dismiss.
which based on status alone, it has to be dismissed on state court because it should have been referred to federal since the beginning. Which is why with